the other thing I wanted to ask you about, man, with Arthur Smith, and he was talking also about this standard, right? He said that, make sure I quote him right so I ain't messing him up. He says, that's not their standard and that's not acceptable, but at the same time, you'd rather go through this now than have it happen come week 1. And I like that thought process, but my question to you is, what is technically this standard? Or is it a new standard since we have new coach, new personnel at quarterback, etc.?
I think it's just guys being professional.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, he knows that's not good enough. Some of the veterans on the O-line, that's not what we're about either.
Yeah.
Najee, Jalen Moore, Pickens. I think it's just being a professional. Like, what an offense is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to be humming. And that ain't it. It's not going to win you games.
Yeah. I
think that's what it comes down. I don't think there's a deep, Steeler aspect to it or anything. I just think we got a bunch of guys. So, we do have some younger guys, but a Russ, a Van Jefferson, Sam Alou, James Daniels, a Najee Harris, Jalen Warren Pickens, some of these guys that have some years under their belt, they just know that this isn't what an offense is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
There's a way we're supposed to uphold ourselves out here.
No, that's real. That's real. And part of me, man, when I was seeing the whole standard part, I did see where the people were bringing up the statistical element of our offense right now, scoring 15 total points in the 2 preseason games. Where does that make you feel one way or the other, man? Or you not really as concerned with the point total?
I'm not. It's preseason. I think that's my mantra right now.
Yeah, it's preseason.
It's preseason. Ask me in the regular season, we're 2-3 weeks in. If that's the points per game, then I'll be like, that's not good enough, clearly.
Because last year,
clearly it's not
where
good
were we at last year? It was, 17, 16, something like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is Mason came in and we were putting up 30. That we need to at least get to that.
Facts.
Because if we don't,
then everything looks like for loss.
Well, I was going to say, you do need to start asking yourself, we did all this. We made all these changes.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy right here where we go 3-0 to end the season. He plays good in the playoffs and just say bye. Mm-hmm. We could have got him on the cheap, too.
Yeah, that's true. Now, granted, I don't think money-wise we would be taking the L, but personnel-wise,
I
was going to say money-wise we're not taking the L just
yet.
Yeah,
Fields and Russ right now might be less than what Mason's getting.
Yeah, I was like, would have been half decent with that part, but now I do agree with what you're saying right there, man. I think that's going to be interesting too in terms of how patient everybody is expectation-wise.
Well, it's weird though too because Mason was doing that with the Faulkner-Sullivan combo too, so we don't even know what Mason or Kenny would have looked like with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, very
true. I think it would have worked out. If it works out for Russ, works out for Fields, it should have worked out for those two guys, but you never know.
Yeah.
You truly never know. More Russ than Fields is a whole different dynamic with his legs and everything, but we might not even get to see him if it works out for Russ here. He'll just keep the job the whole way through the season.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel, man, in terms of this is the kind of thing, as I've summarized through all of what Arthur Smith was saying, it really boiled down to good camp practices and performances versus not so good preseason game performances. We talk Justin Fields. We know prior to these games, he was the talk of the town. Every throw that he made was on social media. Every run that he could do was on social media. And we all were having the convos of, is what he doing in practice enough to close the ground or even surpass Russ? And we were kind of going back and forth. A lot of people are still, or not as many, but that was a convo that was still being had, though.
I'd say if you did a poll, I bet you it'd be close to 50-50.
Serious?
I'm serious, yeah. People on Fields.
Man, all right.
I'm being serious.
All right. That's a little, I'm so surprised by that. Okay. But
I think the buzz is real.
Because part of the whole convo that even Arthur Smith was having is, what we're doing in practice settings looks really good, but then you get under the lights and we're struggling. And even specifically with Justin Fields, you talk about the training camp practices look great, performed at a very high level, but we talk about both games, and there have been certain parts in both games where it's kind of left us desiring more, whether it was the QB center exchanges in the first game or in this game where it was almost like he reverted back to just being a runner of the football and not really trying to attack with his arm. But one is in camp where it looks good. One is in the actual games where it doesn't. But, are they really up there? They you're right. I do see people saying Team Fields. It's kind of crazy. All right. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's like I was a little surprised by that. But does that sway you one way or the other? If everything that we saw from Fields that was good, so to speak, didn't happen in training camp, it was more of the bad reports in training camp, the bad highlights, but he gets to these games and he's playing well. Do you think that would have shifted how we all are feeling right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's putting up $120 and 2 touchdowns, 50 rushing yards, let's just say on average in these 2 preseason games, I think we're having conversations. That's, I mean, it's in the game.
Even if the practices were bad, though.
Yeah, but you talked about that Monday with practices. Like some of it's like 7-on-7. They're just set up for certain situations.
Yes. It's
as
more
opposed
isolated,
to a full game flow, getting the feel for how everything's going, series in, series out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you do weight it a little bit more in the preseason. Do you have some concerns with the negative training camp reports? If that hypothetical was true, sure. But I think I would be more excited about that than Fields' current situation.
Okay.
Obviously, the perfect world is he balls
Doing
out in the
both,
preseason, and we're hearing all these glowing reports from training camp.
In theory, that's what Kenny did last year.
Yeah.
Think about Kenny a year ago. That was the conversation. It was really good training camp practices. Then we could actually turn on the tape in these games and we're like, yo, all right, it's looking good. Right. Yeah. But right now, it's like this, almost like this part of it doesn't match this part of it, but we still have a lot of support for this guy.
What do you
in the
think?
Competition. I mean, for me, obviously both matters, but I do weight in stadium a little bit more than out of the stadium. I feel like when you're in practice, there is a familiarity, especially when you're in training camp. I've seen the same guys since minicamp, since OTAs, right? I get to these games though, I don't know this guy. I don't know what his scheme is, how he practices, how he prepares, what his work ethic is, his strengths, weaknesses, especially in the preseason. It's more so I'm just showing up and I have to trust my skill set is going to carry me through whatever shows up out here. And as long as I'm fundamentally sound, I should be able to have some level of, a professional floor that's going to look good regardless of what comes out of this building, right? Or what comes across from me and stuff like that. Whereas I just feel like when we're watching the quarterbacks per se. Now, granted, it is a little bit challenging on them too, because we're accustomed to not having to worry about all of this per se, because we're just going to get after you, right? And if you're the running back, you run in, receiver, etc. But the quarterback, they're supposed to be the smartest guys out there. They want to know everything. What's the calls, man? What defense do they like to run? So to an extent, yeah, I do kind of try to add some grace in there for Justin Fields, because you don't know what you're walking into versus Buffalo. Are they blitzing? Are they playing cover 4? Whatever. You don't know what the Texans are going to be running in their second preseason game. What are they doing and stuff like that.
And he had who knows out there at receiver.
Absolutely.
I'll give him that.
Absolutely. So my hope is with Fields, maybe this week, because it's the mock week, right? Where they're going to treat this as if they're, playing a regular season game. So it should be a little bit more game plan. It should be a little bit more schematic stuff to help him out. Nothing crazy, but just enough to give him some more understanding of what he's going to face. I'm hoping that we'll see that make him look better than what has been these past 2 games, because he's had moments, but as a whole, I think that he could be a lot better throwing the football in stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think he took a step back last game compared to the game against the Texans. And he was 6 for 6 on passing ball, and that was one of the highlights from his game against the Texans. I was like, you know what? We had the weird snaps and stuff. He took a sack or 2, and the sack or 2 wasn't necessarily all on him, and pressure got to him. But the one thing I can really, hammer home on and be positive about is when he did make pass attempts, they were good. They were nice, really nice.
You could see the arm strength. You could see it, man.
Yeah, and then in this most recent game, we kind of got a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Ball security issues were still there, but then he was less consistent passing. I guess we got to see his legs more, though. That was the one upside from this game.
He took what Coach Thomas said and ran with it, literally. It's like, I want to see more of his legs. All right, you're going to get all that then?
Yeah.